This for my north side,
Kiara,
south side,
Kiara,
east end,
Kiara,
west end,
Kiara,
for my H-town,
Kiara,
Seafield,
Kiara,
804,
Kiara,
we them real,
Kiara.
yeah, 2 up, 2 down, rich town, 2 up, 2 down, rich town, 2 up, 2 down, rich town,
It's the Kiara Lee Show.
rich town.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Kiara Lee Show. I'm Kiara Lee, and today we are talking about Black fatherhood. This is part 2 of our series on Black fatherhood. On the first episode, we were talking about Black fatherhood in relation to relationships with our Black daughters and how Black fathers are often stigmatized and the difficulties that Black fathers go through and the things they face. Well, for this part 2 episode, we are talking about debunking, the negative myths of Black fatherhood. We are talking about disproving the bad, the negative things we often hear, the stigma of the deadbeat dad or the absent Black father. And we are here to give credit where credit is due and to shed light on fatherhood and the good things that our Black fathers are doing. And here again with us, we have Ron and O, and we're going to have a conversation about Black fatherhood and, the importance of, like I said, giving credit where credit is due. And I just want to first go over some statistics that I found doing research on my own. According to the National Center for Health Statistics, like I said, Black fathers are doing more than they're given credit for. There was a stat in a study published this year in January about Black fathers and their involvement with their children, period. And it said that Black fathers are about 5 times more likely to eat meals with their children than white fathers, and are about 15% more likely to eat meals with their children than Hispanic fathers. And we often hear that the Black family, is in turmoil, the Black family is dying, is suffering, yet there are these statistics that say quite the opposite. And what do you all feel about that? That it's showing that Black fathers are more likely to share meals with their children than any other demographic.
Well, I wasn't surprised on the numbers, and just the survey itself, it was really, really big. It was 10,000 people sampled, so that kind of shocked me. So that's a really huge sample size, and to really get that type of feedback from it, I think it really solidified, the Black father's place in the family, and also let us know that sometimes that stereotype can sometimes overwhelm us and not allow us to really think about the fathers who are playing that role.
Yeah, it could also discourage those that are not in the child's life to say, well, I can't do it or whatever. But you really can't, let those things discourage you. You definitely have to be involved.
And going along with that, another stat from that same study said that Black fathers are 10% more likely than white fathers to bathe, diaper, feed young children ages like from babies to 5 years old. And they are 25% more likely to do so than Hispanic fathers. And again, we say that the Black family is doing so bad, yet we hear these stats, but I just wonder why we haven't been hearing such positive statistics this whole time. Why is it taking 2014 to really shed light on the positivity of the Black father? What do you all think about that?
Well, I just think there's a big misunderstanding, and I really don't think a lot of other cultures really want us around, to be honest with you, and that plays a big role on their negative image towards us. So anything that we pretty much do, they're going to look down on or put a negative impact, negative thought process on it.
Mm-hmm. And President Obama, he's really been vocal about Black men needing to step to the plate. You had Bill Cosby, ABC News has done something. A lot of the national media is really shining light and creating this so-called crisis, just like the war on drugs that they had back in the Reagan administration. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it is smoke and mirrors. I think black fathers are stigmatized, and we all know black fathers who aren't stepping up to the plate. But I think my biggest beef is not celebrating the fathers who are stepping up to the plate. I know this past Father's Day on Facebook, I put out a question, just asking, what are we redefining what a black father is? Because I know there were several people wishing their mothers Happy Father's Day, and that was really eye-opening because they are mothers who are really taking on the lead parent role, not really having that co-parent. So it's interesting, how are we defining what a black father is? What is the black father's roles and responsibilities now?
Right.
It's very interesting. And as far as like roles and responsibilities, like this study shed light on like routine kind of stuff, like how involved fathers are with stuff, day-to-day stuff, like routine things. Going off of what the study has shown, how does that how do your experiences as far as your role in your child's routine play a role in this? Like them talking about black fathers are more likely to eat with their kids, Do you all place a high standard on eating with your children? Do you do that often? Like how is what they're saying, how does that correlate in your personal relationship with your daughter?
I think it's pretty accurate because me and my daughter's mother, we live together, so there's more time to do those activities. In terms of statistics, a lot of it point out to fathers who live outside of the home, and they were saying how those fathers, even though they don't live in the home, are more active than Caucasian and Hispanic fathers who don't live in the home. But just the day-to-day activities, it's tough, working full-time, and I have a 21-hour-week internship, and I have a part-time job, so the time is not there to do every meal, but if I can do a meal, and whether it's breakfast or dinner, which are usually the two ones I can catch, I do really appreciate that time. Any time to read, those little things, that little quality time, those are the time that you really appreciate as a parent.
Yeah, that particular time is important. You really I don't really emphasize it, but it's just something that just comes natural. You have to eat. So, and, my daughter, she has to eat too, and of course we eat together, it's really not it happens. It's this natural thing,
I see what you're saying. And to piggyback on your point about the fathers that don't live with their children, from that same study, the study shared that for black fathers that don't live with their children have still been shown to be more likely to play with their children and spend time with their children and read to their children than fathers of other demographics. And they're talking about Hispanic fathers and white fathers. So again, like you all are saying, this investing time, one-on-one time and playing with your children and reading to them and playing an active role, is something that black fathers do, despite what we may have been hearing or may have been reading, as of late. And also in that study, they found that black fathers that live with their children, for children ages 5 to 18, are more likely to pick up their children or take their children to their daily activities, their extracurricular activities and things like that. Can you all kind of shed a little light on that as far as in your personal lives?
Well, my daughter, she's under 5, but just in general, just working a lot with kids, that's pretty much been my whole career. I know a lot of dads don't really like coming to the PTA meetings, but if their kids are involved in sports, I see a lot of dads out there helping the coaching, coming out, supporting their kids in activities that they enjoy. And I see that their excitement about that activity kind of motivates the kids. And if their father's interested in football, and that's when he's coming around to come see him, they really have this vested interest in becoming a better athlete, a better football player. So you can tell that the father is that role model and that their behavior is something that the kids want to emulate, and they want to make their father happy, make him proud.
Yeah, but see, Niyah, she's part of piano. She does piano, and I used to play an instrument when I was a child. So when we go to the practice or whatever, I try to show her little things that I know or can try to remember about, the notes or what have you like that, just to encourage her to continue on, and that, this is just like a beginning stages of music, and that you can perhaps change what other instrument you want to play. Because the piano is, pretty much the foundation of, all music, as far as learning the notes, Of course, I think it's the hardest, but, you want to get the hardest thing out of the way so everything else will be easier.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I played piano when I was in high school, and I can say it is hard.
Yeah.
But that's great. That's great, though. And to go along with daily activities, things like that, this same study shared that Black fathers that don't live with their children are more likely to help their children with homework than Hispanic and white fathers who don't live with their children. And I just thought that was profound because, education is and will always be a hot topic, and parental involvement in education and the teacher versus parent and all that stuff. And just to hear that our Black fathers are helping with homework and are doing that stuff was very enlightening to me. I thought that was fantastic just to see that in a study.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I totally agree. Seeing that, particularly the educational piece, because we as fathers and mothers need to emphasize that as like the foundation for kids, and letting them know that it's important for their development as whatever career they want to take, whether it's sports or whether it's wanting to be a professional or in terms of being a banker or a counselor like myself.
Right.
But just encouraging that.
Well, see, with my situation, I'm not with her mother, from an early age, but we have the agreement to have the time split totally in half. Okay. So it's very important for me, as well as her mother, to, spend as much time as we can with her schoolwork, equal time or whatever, because, it takes two. Whatever she will miss, I can pick up on, and vice versa, But it's all total still, the cooperative, situation we got to deal with.
That's good, because I know often with just, in my experience and just my friends and just what I saw growing up, help with homework, if, my friends had help with their homework from their parents, it almost always came from their mother, That's something I think that sometimes in society we assume is the mother's role, and just let the mom deal with that, with the homework, if, like I said, if it even happened. And again, I just think it's great to hear, and it's great for the masses to hear that fathers are, doing this too. And I also asked for some submissions as far as fatherhood is concerned, and Father's Day just passed, and, been talking about fatherhood. I asked, the broad question, what does it mean to be a father? And I wanted to talk about 4 submissions with you all that I got. The first one is from Jason, and Jason says, being a father means being your daughter's hero and first love. It means we got to show our daughters how they should be treated and set the bar for men in her life. And how do you all feel about that?
I think Jason was on point.
Yeah,
he said it all out.
That's about right. I mean, definitely want to be involved and be around. That's one of the main things. Because that's what she's going to see. That's what your child's going to see. You being present. Yep.
I was listening to something on YouTube from T.D. Jakes, and he was saying, as far as us being role models for other fathers, even for our kids, is that we can't put ourselves too high up on a pedestal, and as if we don't make any mistakes, and that we're, this perfect being, because as fathers we make mistakes, as human beings we make mistakes,
Right.
and we have to let our kids know that we're not perfect, because we don't want to put us way up here and have these such high expectations, and then if we don't fulfill something that we promised, or that something that they wanted to do, then we're such a bad person. So I think we have to be realistic that we make mistakes. We're not perfect. So we do want to be the hero. I think that does make our ego feel good. But
Yeah. That's a
But
good
yeah, it's life, and life, it's not easy all the time. So you're going, as long as you don't stay down,
That's a very good point. So it's kind of like a balance. Like you don't want to be unrealistic, but you want to be there. And
Right.
that's a good point. And as far as my own experience, I remember like when I was really little, like my dad would get me stuff for Valentine's Day and like, you know, do different things like that. And like hearing that does really kind of set you up for when you get older, and it makes you want to expect certain things when you start dating and get out there and stuff. And that's just very true. And I think it is important to set an example, and I don't think it's ever too early to start as far as that's concerned. Trey said, I'm a new father, but so far, fatherhood is teaching me that this life of mine is no longer just mine.
Well, yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, there's another person to care for. You know, focus your attention on, and yeah, he hit it.
Yeah, I mean, things definitely changed. Like Drake said, nothing was the same. Once you have a kid, it's not the same anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to think I was a pretty selfish person before I had a kid. But now with a kid, you not only have to think about the child, you have to think about the child's mother, your mother, her grandmother, because everybody wants time with the child.
Right.
And, you know, you have to really be conscious of a lot more things than as if it were when you were just thinking of yourself. So it does change. It does change a lot. I feel like I've become more mature. I felt like I've been able to make decisions more, instead of making them for the next week or the next month. I've been thinking 5 years from there, 10 years from there, and you know, just being more. I feel like I've been more productive since I've had the child than I was before I had it.
Wow, that's good. William says, being a father means a lot of things, but among everything else, I think the most important thing is presence. My kids are adults now, and even still, me being there for them is paramount. They tell me themselves. And I was happy to hear that and to get that one sent in, because I think fatherhood doesn't stop when you turn 18. Motherhood doesn't stop when you turn 18. You're no longer someone's child when you turn 18. That still all needs to be set and in place no matter how old you are, no matter how old the child is, because that dynamic doesn't fade and that dynamic doesn't die.
Right.
And I think we don't talk about that often enough. I think in this society there's a lot of, oh, you turn 18, peace, okay, figure it out yourself, you know.
That goes back to selfishness though, you know, because you can't, I don't think they should really be thinking like that, you know.
Fatherhood also doesn't stop when you get incarcerated. Right now, I'm working with the program through the National Fatherhood Initiative, and they have a program called Inside Out Dad that they run in different jails and prisons throughout the country, and I'm co-facilitating that right now. And I sat in my first group this week, and it was a very interesting, experience. It's an evidence-based program, and it's just interesting hearing some of the comments from the guys that's incarcerated, some of the struggles, some of the stress of being incarcerated, knowing your kids out there, and the moms may be dating a different guy. He may be abusive, he may not be, and just really not having power to even feel like you can do different things. But the jail does have opportunity for them to do video visits with their kids. So I'm really, really looking forward to actually sitting in a video visit and just to see that, because in some past visits, I've been told that sometimes the kids have had signs saying, "Hey, Daddy," and really making it a real joyous occasion, and even getting not just that kid, but even bringing kids from the guy had with other women, bringing those kids there, so all the kids can be together and really participate in this event. So I'm really looking forward to that.
I think that's great, and I think it's good that you brought up parental incarceration, because that's another topic that I'm passionate about, or just starting to become passionate about. I wrote a children's book about parental incarceration called "Be a Man, Tyrone: What Happens When Daddy Goes to Prison," and it's about what you're saying. It's a little boy whose father goes to prison, and he's told to be a man, and I'm sure you hear that a lot in your line of work. They're told to be a man, hold down the house, watch over the family while I'm gone, because I'm not going to be here. But we tend to forget, or we tend to not acknowledge at all the damage that's done when we try to force a child to become an adult simply because of a circumstance that child had nothing to do with. And I think the phrase "be a man," is so detrimental, but I think that fathers often say it because it's their only way to still be involved in their child's life if they're behind bars, behind a glass, screen. How can they can be but so involved physically. So by them telling their children that, be a man, I'm telling you to do this, I still have a connection with you, and I still have some control over the situation. So I think that's an interesting thing too.
I mean, I've been reflecting on the whole be a man thing, especially for young boys who aren't able. I mean, because you hear it a lot, he's a man of the house, he's 10 years old. At 10 years old, I couldn't work. I couldn't beat nobody bigger than, as far as an adult. I couldn't provide. So I think you said sometimes planting that seed, and that could be detrimental because he may not feel like he can live up to the obligations of his father. I think that's putting a lot of stress on a child, having them have to fulfill their father's shoes.
So I think it's just a struggle alone, the father that's incarcerated to, be an active role in their child's life and to do it the right way, because the whole be a man thing can be so harmful. But I kind of understand it if they want that connection with their child. I kind of understand them saying that, but it's just so difficult. But so back to the submissions, Dwayne had said, being a black father is a duty. We're doubted and we're stigmatized on the daily. Our job is to fight those stigmas and to be the best fathers we can be for our sakes and for the sake of our kids.
I'm not sure if you all have seen the little, it's a picture, it's baby Catan, and they have a black lady, and she has a baby. She's holding it in this carrier, and then there's a picture of a white lady, and she has a baby, and then has a man behind her. And it was like this big uproar on Twitter. People were saying that, this is racist, and why doesn't a black woman have a man? And, even something that's naive, something as subtle as that, could really just increase the stigmatization even more. Some people may not have paid attention, but to us as black people, we're really conscious. We have this hypervigilance over things like that, and it's funny because if you study psychology and you study marketing, a lot of things that they do is intentional. And then when we pick up on it, it's like, we didn't mean to do that. This was a simple mistake, and it's this apology, and a lot of times we get blamed for being racist. We get blamed for being racist because we see these things and we point these out, and it's not fair because then we get stigmatized. So. But
in actuality, it's a deliberate attack on the black man. If you look at that picture, of course, the female is sitting there by herself, but when there's no man present, that's an attack on black. Like as far as black men, they want you out the picture altogether. That's what that looked like to me.
And I'm just to hit on that point. I've reading history. I was in a master social work program at VCU, and one of my first class, we were talking about how back in the day, social workers would actually, they were trying to get the men out the house. Social services was trying to get the men out the house, and they would actually do rounds and come to your house and see if a man was living there. And then if he was living there, they would take your benefits away. And it's still that case sometimes with men. If men, if they say, okay, I'm not married or I don't have this man living here, the woman is able to get more benefits. She's able to get a housing vouchers, food benefits, and also benefits with the insurance. So, like you said, there is almost this deliberate attack to remove the black man out of the picture, so to speak.
Even a lot of single mothers are allowed to get certain grants for school too, if there's no father around.
But then I guess, I don't know, just to play devil's advocate, I guess some of that is, they're alone, they're struggling, let's give them more assistance. As far as the school is concerned, like some of that could be, she's down and out, she doesn't have a partner to help her out, let's give her some money, I guess.
And I agree. I agree with that, but I was having this conversation about being a man and providing with some offenders that I work with, and they too feel like it is almost this deliberate, attack, and because I asked, I heard this one comment that I did this, I sold drugs, I committed these crimes for my kids. And I just wanted to get some feedback because to me, I felt like the onus is put on the kid. You pretty much blaming this kid for your decisions when it's not fair to the kid. And I was reading some statistics on, black males really wanting to be the providers, and they have this idea of being the providers, and when they can't provide financially, they kind of just step to the side and move out of the picture. And I kind of hear that with these guys, they sell these drugs, they commit these crimes, but they're taking themselves out of the picture. And with the criminal justice, the way, it's 1.5 million people incarcerated right now. Those crazy. Men and women that aren't being able to provide financially, and then you have to have these services for the women, whether it's through food stamps or whatever it may be. So it's just a very interesting debate. I think that might be another show topic.
Sounding like. So do you all agree with Dwayne? Do you think that being a black father is a duty? Should it be that way? Is it like that for fathers of other races? Is it fair to say that? Or?
Well, it's a duty to other races as well. I mean, and it's more of a duty for us, though, because of the negative impact they done put on us and everything. So we have to, definitely step up, and encourage those that are not involved in their children's life to be involved. This this show alone is for that purpose. And
I actually looked up the word duty the other day because I was very curious on the word. But when I looked it up, it had a part of it that was talking about how it's almost like a cultural kind of a traditional thing. In our culture, before slavery, it was the tradition was that the black man played a specific role, the father played a specific role, and each tradition followed that role. But with slavery, that kind of shook that role up a little bit. It changed the trajectory of fatherhood, of black fatherhood, and almost now the trajectory is we don't really know where it's going. And for the most part, a lot of the people that are mostly affected are the ones that's in poverty. The ones that, low socioeconomic status, they don't really have those models in place to follow and really learn. So you kind of see fatherhood being redefined in certain segments of the black community.
Well, I thank you guys so much for being on the show again. This has been a great experience for me, learning more about fatherhood and just talking about it and putting this positivity out there. And I want to end on this note with Niyah, who we have sitting with us, and I wanted to ask her, what is her favorite thing about her father?
Well, my favorite thing about my dad is that he helps me when I need help and stuff.
Oh, you see that? Fatherhood, again, like I said, fatherhood, positivity, black fathers are doing it despite what we're hearing, and we need to embrace that. My name is Kiara Lee, and thank you for watching.
This for my north side. West End, my east town. Seafield, 804. We done been 2 up, 2 down. Rich town. 2 up, 2 down. Rich town. 2 up, 2 down. Rich town.
It's the Kiara Lee Show.
Rich town.